Welcome to this episode of Junk Food on the Road. This time we're talking about...
Iceland.
Yes.
Or Iceland.
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 Yes.
Okay.
I think so. That's what we've always called it, is Iceland, not...
Iceland?
There is ice there. There's glaciers.
Yeah, there's glaciers.
Yeah. You want to talk about your...
My weird mission?
Yeah.
So I wanted to taste a glacier. And if you just think about that, it's like, well, that sounds stupid. But it's like, you think about all the water companies and beer companies and everything that talks about like glacier water beer and glacier ice this and
Polar ice vodka.
like, yeah, exactly. So there's all these like glacier drink related things. So I thought if I had the opportunity, like, what does just a glacier taste like?
Do you remember your first look at the glacier you wanted to lick?
So yeah, the first glacier we should probably just start this at the beginning. We'll go back to the glacier. We'll circle back to glacier. We basically went to Iceland, and we drove around,
Yes.
and we saw, like, we didn't just go to Reykjavik, which is the capital city.
No, we did the whole country.
We did the whole country, and we did we were in more amongst nature than we were in the city. So.
And it's remote.
Yes, very remote.
It's amazing, but
Beautiful,
remote.
Very remote. So part of our trip, was lava fields, steam, and glaciers. So the first glaciers we saw were waterfalls. Were sort of runoffs of waterfalls. But the first sort of like real glacier, like thing that looked like a glacier, like you see in a textbook, we saw came from, like, we were just driving along. We sort of saw it. It was almost like it was pouring out of the mountains. And so we saw them. I think when we first saw them, we didn't know how close we'd get to them.
Yeah, so we were amazed from a distance.
We were just like, and then we realized we came to a certain point, and we realized that there was a park, or a path that would take you either very close or right up to the glaciers. And so we decided to pull off at that one point, and we realized we could actually. Well, we were in a camper, so we had sort of certain limitations about where we could drive. But we sort of saw this gravel thing where we saw buses parked in the distance. So we thought, okay, if a bus can get there, we can safely get there. Let's go there, we'll park, and then walk, as close to this glacier as we can. And we could get really close. So we could actually get to, if we wanted to.
We couldn't walk on it.
No. But
which you can do in the Columbia ice fields in Canada.
I think you can. I think
There's probably places where
you can. I think you could there too. I think if you went off to the side and walked diagonally, you could. But because there was lots of signs there talking about how you need crampons, how it's dangerous, stuff like that. So you probably could. But we were just in, like, at most hiking boots and running shoes, and we sort of took this pathway, and we walked close to it, and basically it led to like a muddy looking lake. And then all of the glacier ice at the bottom was just blackened with dirt.
Yeah.
So
Chris changed his mind about licking that glacier.
I decided not to lick that glacier. I thought, if I could get to a clean part, maybe. But then I think the only way would be to, like, walk with crampons. And it was like, so it was just too complicated. But it was kind of neat,
Yeah.
And there was like water pouring out. It was really cool. So.
But you could hear the water dripping off of the nose of the glacier.
Yeah, it was really cool. But eventually we went to this one part, which is really the lake, which is really famous for having icebergs that basically, it's chunks of ice that fall off the glaciers, land in this lake, into this lagoon, and then the lagoon sort of goes out to sea. So the lagoon is basically like 50% glacier water and probably 50% seawater, depending on which way the tide's going.
Mm-hmm.
At the time we went, the sea tide was coming in, so the icebergs weren't going out.
But it was full of icebergs.
It was full of icebergs. And so we sort of walked along the edge of this lagoon, and there was chunks of ice just floating there. So I reached down, grabbed a chunk that I could lift, and put it in my mouth. There'll be an episode of Chris, Why Would You Eat That? Might be I've already been posted by the time this comes out. But check out, either look out for that or check our YouTube channel for that, and you'll see it. So I licked a glacier. Because it was in that lagoon that had sort of attached to the sea, it was kind of salty. But sort of once you got through the layer of salt, it was just very clean water. The ice was crystal clear too.
Mm-hmm. It was really pretty.
Yeah, it was really pretty.
And the beach sort of at the outlet of the lagoon is well known for having these little sort of like...
diamonds.
They're called diamonds. It's called Diamond Beach, and it's famous for having these little tiny iceberg chunks just landing on the beach.
Yeah, so it looks like it's just covered in diamonds.
Yeah.
So But yeah, so I mean, again, I would
It's
describe.
not tiny. Like it's like about 3 footballs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but as far as eating and I mean, I guess there's an element of danger to it because like notionally that's ice that's thousands of years old. So notionally there could be something frozen in it that could like adversely affect my body, some kind of organism. But I feel like that's a pretty low chance.
You and the other light iceberg licker were the only 2 who claimed to have seen reindeer.
Yeah. So.
But we kept seeing road signs for reindeer.
Yeah.
But no reindeer appeared.
Yeah. Apparently there are a few, but not many in Iceland.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe you saw one.
Maybe we. So yeah. So I licked a glacier / iceberg. You know, notionally had tasted ice that was thousands of years old.
Yeah. You did not eat fermented shark this time.
I did not, but you can again go back to the YouTube channel and see us doing that already.
A few years ago.
A few years ago. It was quite a few years ago.
This was our first vacation in Iceland, but I had been for work before.
Yeah. And this is your first time exploring the
the thing. Yeah, it is like a whole new world.
Yeah.
Exploring the outside of Reykjavik.
I mean, as a travel thing, I would generally say that Reykjavik is a great starting point
or finishing
point for Iceland.
Yes.
And Iceland is just this whole great, beautiful. It's exactly what you think it would be.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, if you see all the cool pictures and everything, that's exactly what you get. It's quite cool.
It's a geological baby.
Yeah, and there's lava fields, there's geysers, there's obviously, as we said, there's like icebergs,
sulfur fields,
all kinds of cool stuff like that. And we had a really great time traveling.
Mountains.
But I guess considering this is called junk food, we should talk about the food. We did. So this part of the trip we did in a camper. So to be honest, it's not like.
Well, we ate at restaurants.
We did eat at restaurants, but it's not like there were restaurants everywhere that we didn't go to. Like quite frankly, almost every place there was sort of a restaurant that was kind of interesting, we ate at it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's very remote.
Like it's you go for all day and then you sort of reach a town, like a tiny little town, and it has a tiny little campground, and you park your camper van and plug it in, and so you have to go to these. You have to sort of really use your Google Maps and find grocery stores and campsites.
And towns, because some of the towns aren't necessarily on the highway. You kind of have to turn off them and drive a little bit to get to them.
Yeah.
Probably food-wise, the most interesting and the most remote thing was that cabin in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the mushroom restaurant.
Well, the mushroom restaurant was, but this is like as far as remoteness and how weird it is sometimes. So literally there's this part of it that just looks like it's all rocky terrain. There's nothing growing there.
Yeah, you're sort of on this raised road that is exactly the width of 2 cars, and you're driving in this camper van, and there's like black lava fields on either side of you. And then all of a sudden you see this little shack, and you turn left, and then
there's a big sign that says,
the parking lot.
It says, "We're open."
We're open.
And that's it.
And you go in, and you're like, wow.
And there's grass. It's like they use like mud and grass to buttress up the bottom of the cabin.
I didn't notice that.
And it's all wood.
Yeah.
And then they sell. It's like there's a coffee shop in there.
It's a coffee shop.
It's a coffee shop.
And like with snacks and coffee.
Yeah.
And it's funny because everywhere we went, it was very hard to find filtered coffee. And so, and I'm not a fan of espresso-based drinks. I'll drink them if I have to, but I don't really like them. So I walked into this coffee shop in the middle of nowhere. Like we were basically in a gigantic crater almost. And I said, "Oh, do you have filtered coffee?" And he says, "Of course I do. That's all Icelandic people drink."
Yeah. So it's like
what?
The espresso stuff is all in the sort
it's
of
for the tourists, for the European tourists.
Yeah. But
I was like pleasantly surprised and shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
And we sat down and had like tea and coffee. We were with 2 Finns, our friends Sarah and Petra. They've been on the show before.
Yeah.
And
on our Finland
episode, and so they came with us, and so between the 2 Finns and Allison, coffee was a regular stop for us.
Yes, it was very important.
Yes. So that sort of really documents just the complete remoteness of Iceland. It was really kind of cool.
And everything we did, like for breakfast every morning, we grocery shopped pretty much every second day or so, and we would often have breakfast in the camper, and then hit the road, have lunch somewhere at a restaurant, and then have dinner in the camper.
Yeah, that was pretty much how it worked, and that worked great.
Yeah.
And dinner was often hamburgers, because
For us.
because
Not the vegetarian.
No, the vegetarian. But for us, it was often hamburgers because, and this is the weird thing actually, because there's a lot of camping going on there, but a lot of the grocery stores sell stuff that like.
It's for like family dinners.
And so we had a hard time. But this one store called Bonus, which has the best logo of any grocery store ever.
Yes.
It's a big pink pig.
Yeah. And they have Bonus branded stuff.
Hats
So I got
and-
some Bonus branded bacon.
Yeah, and that it's actually kind of weird because it's a big pig, and they put it on everything. So then there's like cakes, and the first thing going through your mind is like, it's a bacon flavored cake. Like you're not 100% sure, and of course can't read Icelandic, so I don't really know what it is. But yeah, So we sort of we would shop, and the only thing they had there that was sort of like in a normal sort of easy thing was you could get 2 hamburgers sort of packaged together, and so we just would get that, and I'd get some potato salad and
you
coleslaw.
could get cheese slices.
Cheese
to put
slices,
on them.
yogurt. We went through a lot of yogurt.
Yogurt was really good there.
Yeah, and Scream.
Skyr.
SKYR.
YR.
Skyr is, I don't know if it's Icelandic, but it's very popular. It's more popular than yogurt.
Yeah.
Like you would find
I
like
had a hard time
a
finding
million flavors of Skyr, but then like 1 or 2 things of yogurt.
Yeah.
And there'd be all kinds of little salads and stuff like little mixed like coleslaws and potato salads. And I had something called, it wasn't Icelandic, what was it? It was like European salad or something, which is a Russian salad. Every country seems to have this salad with like potatoes, corn, and sort of a mayonnaise type thing. And peas, there's often peas in it. And then they just sort of seem to give it to another country. Some people call it a Russian salad if you're not in Russia. Some people call it, and in Iceland they called it like a Norwegian salad or something. I don't know. It was really weird.
It's sort of like the Danish,
Yeah.
which in Denmark is called a Viennese pastry.
Exactly.
Yeah. I went heavy on the tomatoes
Yes.
because it's hard to get tomatoes where we live.
Yeah.
Good tomatoes.
Yeah.
So.
And you had lettuce that lasted forever.
It was funny because I remember the first day of the tomatoes, I was like so excited, and I took the bite of the tomato and I'm like, this is just heaven. And Sarah's like, you must be deprived of good tomatoes, because to me this is kind of like
meh. Yeah. It's expensive in Iceland, grocery shopping. It's
sure.
not insane, but it's not cheap.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was so we did a lot of grocery shopping. I guess the other one of the restaurant Allison mentioned before, the mushroom restaurant. This was one of our lunchtimes.
I had lamb
stops. But you had mushroom stuff in it, didn't you?
There were mushrooms involved.
Yeah. And you had a bit of my salad.
I tasted a bit of your salad.
So this is kind of an interesting restaurant. It's attached to an actual mushroom house, grower, farm. It's a farm, but it's all indoors.
Yeah.
So it's like an indoor
mushroom production facility.
Yes. And so they grow mushrooms in
and
this
other
place.
stuff and other organic vegetables.
Yeah, they do other organic, but I think the mushrooms are grown there, and I think they have a field where the like tomatoes and stuff are grown.
Yeah.
They do like tomatoes and peppers. I think was their other 2 things.
I had a giant red pepper stuffed with like stewed lamb.
Yeah.
And some vegetables. It was amazing.
I had sort of the house specialty, which is it's basically like a salad bar, but just mushrooms.
Yeah.
It's
There were
like-
other things, right? Like bread.
Okay, so basically what it had
Bread with like pieces of mushroom.
had 2 types of bread. So it had a garlic bread and a regular bread. It had like 5 kinds of butter, including a mushroom butter. And then
That's what I had. I tried your mushroom butter.
And then there was all kinds of like mushrooms, like different kinds of mushroom, like
Mushroom soup.
And there was a cream of mushroom soup. And there was mushroom salads, like they were chopped up, and then it had certain sort of spices and herbs and stuff. And then there's whole mushrooms that had like, and they were like marinated with like different herbs and stuff. There was there was also a pepper jam, or like a pepper puree, but it also had little bits of mushrooms in it. So it was basically like a mushroom buffet.
Yeah.
And it was weird because I sort of saw that on the menu, and I sort of saw it, and I was sort of like, this is weird, because I'm used to like a buffet having like a variety of things, but this is like a buffet that's like just mushrooms.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be really good.
It was amazing. Like, I mean, there were mushroom elements to my meal as well, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you hate mushrooms, this is like a nightmare.
Yeah.
But like, if you love mushrooms, it's like really, I never thought you could have a meal completely mushroom based and it could be really good.
I was basically the odd person out at the table, because the 3 of you had the mushroom buffet.
Yeah.
And I had lamb.
Although,
But I like mushrooms, but I like lamb better.
They also had a hamburger there that I saw. It was like a portobello burger, and I thought, okay, it was like a portobello.
Yes, I thought the same thing.
I thought it was like a portobello patty because sometimes they replace your patty, but no, this is 2 portobello mushrooms are your bun.
Had I realized it,
I know.
I would have had that.
I was tempted by that. Like when I saw it afterwards.
Although Icelandic lamb is so good, and I had so little opportunity to have it.
I think you had it 3 times.
Maybe.
Like,
I can only think.
You had a steak
I had soup in Reykjavik, lamb soup.
Yeah.
And I had a lamb steak in the camper.
Yeah.
And I had this lamb thing, and that's all I had. It was just because the grocery stores had I had to get like
a whole lamb,
like a kilo of lamb or something.
And I don't like lamb, so it wouldn't have really gone. And it'd be kind of hard to cook too. Like the other thing too, since we were in a camper, we didn't have an onion or an oven, so all we would have you'd have to fry it.
I'd have to chop it into bits and fry it, or make some sort of stovetop stew or something.
Yeah. So the burgers tend.
And I was the only one driving, so it was like I'm too tired to think about making stews after 10 hours of.
And even so, you'd have to cook it forever, and so it'd be like a long time to get a stew.
Eat at 11 at night.
Yeah, but yeah. So the mushroom restaurant, that was really.
That was really cool.
Cool. And then we asked the waitress.
Imagine us parking in the parking lot there in our gigantic RV.
I think they get a few of them.
I hope so.
The wait staff there, the one thing that's funny about the wait staff is apparently sitting outside is so popular.
It's the thing.
It's the thing to do because they had this little outside area with only 4 tables. We didn't want to be outside because we'd been sort of eating outside and, because we were kind of living the camping life. So we were the idea of eating in a restaurant was kind of nice to us. Mm-hmm. And so we were inside, but they for some reason couldn't hear that.
Yeah, we kept saying, we'd like to sit inside, please.
And then
they'd be like, do you have a reservation? And it's like, there's 16 empty tables here. Why do we need a reservation?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, let's see if we can do something for you. And they were like, oh, we'll just clear a table for you. And it's like, well, we'd like one inside, please.
And then literally the guy
starts walking us outside, and we're like, we'd really like to sit inside.
Please. Can we please sit inside? And so, but eventually they figured it out, and it was all good. And that's where we found out that they actually grow the mushrooms. Yeah. There, it's part of. We assumed that, but we talked to the waitress, and she was saying that they grow. Oh, and we had mushroom ice cream.
Oh, I forgot about the mushroom ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was kind of cool.
I think I had a tiny bite of that.
Yeah, it was a little bit spiced, and it was just, I don't know if it tastes particularly mushroomy, but it was interesting. I'm glad I tried it. Yeah. I have no need. I will not say that. Oh, I love mushroom ice cream. I need it forever, but I don't regret having tried it. Mm-hmm. So that was.
Oh, I had one other lamb dish in the Fancy Schmancy restaurant in downtown Reykjavik.
Oh yeah, the Curaçao or something.
I forget.
Yeah.
Caruso.
Caruso. Yeah, this is the Caruso, which is we'll get into Reykjavik. Yeah, that would be the last part of this probably.
I just remembered. Yeah. I had 4 lamb meals.
There was a lot of bakeries and stuff where we were going.
Yeah.
We went to the Blue House. Remember that? That was in that little town.
No.
There was that Blue restaurant. It was the one. I forget the name of the town. It was the biggest town we sort of visited.
Akureyri?
Maybe.
That was in the fjord.
Yeah, it was the one in the fjord.
Oh yes, the one with the giant organ pipes on the wall.
Yeah. Okay. And that was and generally there's in a lot of the restaurants there's things like quiches and baked goods, and there was a few sandwiches were quite popular.
It was really disconcerting being in Akureyri because it's kind of right at the top of Iceland, mm-hmm. and we'd been in these small towns all along the way with vast amounts of just nature between them, and then we get to this town and it's like a real town. It's like a real city.
Yeah.
So it was kind of neat and kind of oh, I feel out of place.
And there was cruise ships and tour buses.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the one thing you sort of notice about Iceland is the further you get from Reykjavik, the fewer tour buses there are, and then you get to a certain point where you see almost none for a while.
Yeah.
We had a couple of days where there's no tour buses.
Because I think they mostly do day trips from Reykjavik.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was food-wise, good vegetables.
Good meat.
Everything was just sort of, it was...
Tomatoes.
Tomato, which objectively they were probably okay. They weren't the greatest thing in the world, but they were good.
They were much better than here.
Yeah, much better than what we get here.
Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot, because I'm allergic to carbohydrates, sugars, starches, potatoes, rice, and all that stuff. And I actually found more stuff that I could eat, like sweet treats with like stevia in them or whatever, than I could when our next stop on our vacation, which was London, but that's another story.
That'll be in a month or two.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was kind of nice to sort of see that, I know that I have a very bizarre allergy, but a lot of people don't eat sugars, so they do cater a little bit to it, so that was very nice.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really expect that in a remote island in the North Atlantic, but it was pretty cool.
But I guess packaged treats, I mean, it's shipped. So, you're more likely to find that than like a dairy product from England or something, which would have to be, which is harder to ship. So, but it was, again, in the nature, it was cool. One thing I'll notice, I'll talk about truck stops because we did stop at quite a few of them. The two features about truck stops that I can remember offhand are, first of all, they always had a big wall of like gummies and licorice. Like every place had like a huge selection. Like, you go into most truck stops and there's like a couple shelves of like gummies and stuff. There's like literally a wall or two dedicated.
Yeah, but that's like Scandinavian culture.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly. So it's like, but that's definitely where they get their treats.
Licorice is
quite popular. And I picked up a few treats, which I will either have reviewed or will review and post. And the one thing I'll say is that a lot of them were imports. They don't really make too much there. There's a few chocolate bars, and there was a few licorice treats. But as I'm going through my reviews, I'm sort of reading the backs and being like, from Sweden, from Denmark. So not surprising, but they have similar tastes as far as that goes.
Yeah. The
other thing which I didn't eat, and I kind of regret it because I didn't really make sense of it until we were basically at the end of our trip, were hot dogs.
You kept talking about the hot dogs, and you never had one.
Until the end. Like, it wasn't until the end, and then
But you would talk about them, and you'd say, every truck stop has hot dogs. And then you never...
Yeah, I never tried them. I don't know why. I guess it was never the right timing. And, like, it was always like breakfast or something, we'd be there, or not a meal. We never really went to a truck stop around meal times, because we'd either be at a restaurant or going to the camper van. And
I guess that's
it just never worked out. But apparently, their hot dogs are quite popular, because I literally saw people, like, lots of people buying these hot dogs. Truck stop hot dogs are a thing. So
I'm sorry you didn't get to eat one.
I'll live.
Okay.
I did get to sample the licorice and candies, considering this is candycritic.org and not
hotdog.org.
Hotdog.org.
Hot dog critic.
Hot dog. Well, there we go. Spin off. That would be awful. Just because there's some scary hot dogs out there in the world.
Yeah, that's true. But the best hot dogs, street hot dogs, Toronto.
Yeah.
Totally.
New York.
New York is just like, no,
Nope.
It's not the same.
So those are the two things I noticed about truck stops, and generally lots of sodas. I tried a few of them. I posted stuff on social media.
Yeah, they had some nice sodas.
Some interesting sodas and stuff like that.
Sugar-free ones as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of sugar-free actually. Like, you could pretty much get almost anything sugar-free. And in fact, there was a few things that were I only saw sugar-free.
I had an amazing sort of forest berry, no sugar.
Was that
soda.
collagen
It was
thing?
like it had collagen in it. I don't understand this whole collagen trend in food, but the pop was really good.
Yeah.
And I had some cream soda as well.
Okay.
Or was that in? Yeah, it was there.
It was there.
Yeah.
So Iceland. So we should talk about Reykjavik a little bit.
Sure.
So we only spent like literally one full day in Reykjavik. So we sort of drove in, had an afternoon, had a day, and then we left the next morning.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a quick stop for us, which, to be honest, I mean, I think probably...
it was enough.
I maybe could have spent another day or two.
Day, yeah.
The only thing, by that point too, the weather had turned.
Raining.
Yeah, the weather had turned on us by that point. Like,
yeah, the weather was really good for most of our trip, and then the last couple of days in the camper van, it was pretty harsh.
Yeah, it was really windy, and then it got wet and windy.
Yeah.
And then in Reykjavik, it was pretty much raining the whole time.
Yeah.
So it was fine, because the nice thing about Reykjavik is a lot of what you're doing is indoors.
Yeah.
So really the only...
And we know how to operate an umbrella.
Yep, we're familiar with umbrellas. So restaurant-wise in Reykjavik, there's quite a lot.
Yeah, there is.
It's pretty surprising how much there is available in Reykjavik.
Yeah.
We were only in the downtown, like we're staying in sort of the downtown tourist area. There is sort of a suburb area, like I noticed when we drove in, there's sort of like a more suburban, where there's malls and stuff like that, and we didn't go to that at all.
No.
Because again, we only had a day, so we wanted to kind of check out a few things and then also just sort of enjoy the city and do some grocery shopping, just some of the stuff that we sort of
Wanted
remarked
to take home. Yeah.
when we were doing the drive. We were like, oh, we should pick some of that up, and I wanted to get some stuff for Candy Critic and all that. So we sort of picked up a few things and just wandered around. But
Visited the church.
visited the big church that everybody goes to. Went to a couple of restaurants. You got your other lamb. You got lamb twice. You got lamb at the Caruso, and then you also got lamb at that other.
I got the lamb soup when we first got into Reykjavik,
Yeah.
and we went to this pastry shop to sort of wait for our Verbo to open up. And so it was like, there's nothing for me, so I went around the corner to a restaurant that had lamb soup and brought it back to the pastry shop and ate it there.
One thing I think worth talking about in Reykjavik, food-wise, that was really unique, and I think should
It's
be.
all pastry all the time.
But no, but there's one place that we should talk about that was really unique and really great, and there's this one place that has basically a bar in the basement, and then the upstairs parts are a Thai restaurant and an Indian restaurant.
And I think there was a third one.
There might have been a third restaurant attached to it too. So basically what these people have done is, rather than being a restaurant, so you could go into these little restaurants and there was maybe one or two seats, and you could get takeaway, or you could order your food, pay for it, and then go down to the bar, and then they would deliver the food. They actually had a connecting through the back.
Yeah, they had an internal connection.
Internal connection. So they would actually bring the food to you at the bar. And so basically this guy running the bar, all he does is give you drinks, but then you can sort of have food from any of the restaurants that are outside. And it was really smart.
That is a really smart idea.
So the restaurants are independent, so they can stay open. If the bar is closed, the restaurants can be open, and vice versa. But if they're both open, you can take advantage of both, and you get your drinks at the bar, but you get your food at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So we got some Indian food at this place that was pretty good.
It was really good. Yeah.
And I think we actually ordered one of every dish, because two of them were vegetarian and two of them had meat.
Yeah, they only had 4 dishes.
Yeah, they only had 4 dishes. So we had the meat. Allison and I sort of doubled up on the meat one, and then our 2 vegetarian friends shared the
vegetarian one, yeah.
Totally great food.
Yeah.
We got to sit at this bar, sit down.
So
it was
the
comfortable.
guy who owns the bar itself gets to bring people in,
Mm-hmm.
make it look like a lively place, which brings in more people, and sells drinks for the people who are eating the food from around, and they don't have to cook.
Yeah, it's so brilliant, and it was just I've never seen it's such a community strong thing that I'm saying anybody out there who's has a space that this could work, it's so brilliant. And the beautiful thing is so say that one of the restaurants isn't doing great business, but the bar is doing fine. You're not shutting down your establishment, because then another place could go in there that maybe will do better. So it's you're sort of dealing with independent businesses, and you can have such a variety of food too, because you have 3 or 4 different restaurants. We could add Thai, and I think there was a local Icelandic place, and then there was an Indian place. So you could have all these types of foods, and it's just it was a great thing. It was truly brilliant. I've never been to a place like that, but it seems like there should be one at every city.
Yeah, it's a brilliant model.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Totally loved it. Candy-wise about Iceland, chocolate. There's a lot of people who make chocolate there. I had already reviewed at least 1 or 2 chocolate bars from Iceland. I picked up a couple more. They're fine, but they don't really scream Iceland a lot of the time, which is kind of weird. I don't know how.
How could chocolate scream Iceland?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's funny. I even got a bar called Lava, and I thought, oh, maybe there'll be something
We did get some birch salt.
Did get some birch salt.
It's not salt from a birch tree. It's birch tree infused,
Salt.
birch flavor infused.
And they have lava salt.
Yeah, which we already had.
So, but yeah. So I just noticed there's a lot of chocolate. There isn't really any. I never really found any treats that I sort of would go that says Iceland, and it's a treat. It's sort of local chocolate, which is great. And I picked up, there was this new local chocolate that I picked up, and I'll probably again either have reviewed or will review it by the time this comes out. So there was definitely a local candy scene, but it's just nothing really screamed.
It was European, right? It's sort of
very
Scandinavian.
Yeah,
that's their culture, right?
Yeah.
Is they were inhabited by the Vikings and the Scandinavians.
And that's what you get.
Maybe over time they'll develop a more unique culture. Who knows?
Yeah. Food-wise, it was even very sort of even the food we got, the local food.
Yeah. Although the lamb, there's a sheep everywhere.
Yes.
So for me, it was lamb heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't get that in Scandinavia.
You don't. I guess not.
So that's something that's a little more Ireland-y.
Ireland, yeah. Which is actually, I guess, their closer neighbor.
Probably. maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look at a globe.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, it's a cool place to drive.
It was great.
It was a great trip.
It was fantastic.
Saw lots of cool stuff.
I'd like to do it in a car sometime.
Yeah, it was a bit windy. The problem
we didn't take enough time to do it, I don't think.
Yeah. The other problem too is doing it in a car is like we saw some guest houses, but they're sort of far and few between.
Yeah.
And from what I could tell online, you have to reserve guest houses, whereas the campsites we could literally just pull up and pay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we could just go as we pleased.
Yeah.
So.
And it was the busiest season for tourism.
And we never had turned around.
We never got. I mean, we had sometimes problems finding sites that had a plug-in.
Yeah.
But we.
Other than the last site, which was not really the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a different situation. Other than the last site, we had electricity all the time. So.
Yeah.
It worked out.
Yeah, so it worked out really well.
Yeah.
And I found that if we got there after about 7 or 8 p.m., it was a little harder. But if you got there by 6 or so, it was fine.
Yeah, absolutely fine. And then generally a lot of them would fill up by the evening. And I guess the idea of the sun didn't go down was always kind of threw you off too, because the sun.
You never really knew what time it was.
Yeah, it was basically light all the time. So, and
it got twilighty after midnight or so.
Yeah.
11 or 12 maybe, but
yeah.
I was usually asleep by 11. So.
Exactly. So we never really saw the sun go completely down.
No.
At all. So.
Which is always fun when you're like traveling in the north. I like that summertime in northern countries.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's kind of cool.
So I think the only true sort of Icelandic thing that I ate that truly could just be Iceland was the glacier.
Yeah, but you can eat glaciers elsewhere.
I guess so, yeah.
But maybe not saltwater glacier. Well, it's not a saltwater glacier. It was a glacier. It was a tiny iceberg floating in salt water.
Yeah.
So you got that little sort of salt bonus. And then got to see your reindeer.
Yeah.
In your hallucination.
There you go. And only time will tell if it'll kill me.
Yeah. You done?
I think so.
Okay.
So thanks for listening. As always, you can follow us on social media. Go to candycritic.org. You can also pick up my books at candycritic.org.
Ooh, Blue Orchid.
Yeah, Blue Orchid is one of them. Well, no.
Treats and Beasts.
Blue Orchid isn't technically. Well, you can find a link to Blue Orchid on the bottom of candycritic.org.
Oh.
But Treats and Beasts and Snack Facts are the two big sort of candy-related ones. But you can also pick up Blue Orchid because that's something I'm working on, and that, helps out if you pick them up.
She's a Southeast Asian superhero.
Yeah, more stories coming out all the time. So.
Yeah.
And again, follow social media. You can find them on candycritic.org. Check out all the reviews on candycritic.org, including probably by this point several reviews from this trip, because I'm sort of pushing them up on my list. So that way they'll be up by the time this comes out. So I think that's it. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.